How do you do the effect where you track text onto your fingers? What they're referring to is the effect that I use when I'm listing something and text pops up when I hold individual fingers up. It's a pretty simple effect that looks really cool, especially when you add a couple of finishing touches to it. The first part of this is a single point track. If you don't know how to do that, I'll link a video in the description showing you how to use that feature. And don't worry about your budget, this feature is included in HitFilm 4 Express, which is available for free. That is also the software that I will be using for this. After I've done the single point track, I will attach a point to that track and then parent the text layer to that point. So there's a point attached to my finger and the text is attached to that point. You shouldn't attach the text directly to the track. Next, I do this little quick animation. It only lasts about 4 frames. I set the anchor point to the part of the text that touches my finger, and then animate the scale from 0 to 100 over about 4 frames. And I'll also animate the background to blur out when that animation happens. The blur is very subtle. I use a radius of only about 2. Where do you get all of the nice fonts? I get all of my fonts from the internet, literally by just Googling edgy fonts if I'm looking for an edgy font, modern font if I'm looking for a modern one. But it's not quite that simple. I don't know where this misconception came from that you can use any font you find on the internet. Fonts are not universally free for you to use. Just like music, sound effects, or images, fonts are an art form, and you have to have permission from the person who made it to use that in your own work. However, a lot of fonts do already have that permission. They're under the right license for you to use them legally, so you just need to find the ones that have that. And of course, always make sure to list the font in the description of your work. How did you get the timeline to be so big? This one was referring to a technique that I use in my before and after videos where I have the timeline scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Because we're limited by screen size, the timeline can't actually be that large. The first thing I do to create this effect is take a bunch of screenshots of my timeline. Then in a composite shot in HitFilm, I will line all of the screenshots up next to each other and parent each one to the one before it, to the screenshot to the left of it. Then I animate the position of the first one to move across the screen. You crashed the DJI Phantom? Yes, that is correct. While I was at the beach shooting the coasting video that went up a month ago, 5 weeks ago, there are a few drone shots in that of a lake. While I was at that lake shooting those drone shots, long story short, I crashed into a tree. I haven't tested the drone to see if it works yet, but the camera was still on when it crashed. It was working. I don't have the footage of it because the camera shut off. But we did turn it on after it crashed and the camera worked and we could see through the live view. The only thing that broke was the plate connecting the camera to the actual drone. By ordering some replacement parts on Amazon and using an epoxy, that was pretty easy to fix, but there could still be something wrong inside of the drone that could prevent it from flying. So we'll just have to see if it still works. Do you make your own music? Ha 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 ha, no, I don't. There are a few different places that I get music for my videos. What I've been using the most recently is Majestic Casual's royalty-free playlist. Before that, I've used music from a channel called Chucky Beats. Now that's just the music that you hear playing in the background of videos like this. For bigger projects, like cinematic videos, I will find a song that I really like and then contact the artist who made that song. The coasting video had a song in it by an artist called Imagined Herbal Flows. I heard that song, really liked it, so I emailed that person's manager. But that's a little bit much for the regular weekly videos, so I just use music that's already legal for me to use. My advice for picking music for your YouTube videos, if it's background music like this, then I would say make sure it's instrumental and always make sure that it's legal for you to use, that there's not a copyright on it, or that you can get permission to use it. Do you use Photoshop CS6? No, I do not use Photoshop CS6 or any version of Photoshop. Sometimes I do use GIMP, but what I usually use for graphic design projects like thumbnails is just HitFilm. The advantages of doing graphic design in a video editor program is that you're working with tools that you're already familiar with, and you don't have an extra project file floating around on your computer for every video. And it's nice to not have an extra project file floating around, because I do not have a lack of project files on my computer at the moment. To do this, I just open a new composite shot and set the duration to be 1 frame long. By setting it to be only 1 frame, you're eliminating all of the animation and movement. So what you're basically left with is a photo editor. What do you think of HitFilm's workflow? I think that HitFilm's workflow is efficient and wonderful, except for when it does this. But that's not too common. so you should be fine. Anyway, that is all for this week's video. I think that you should watch this video, and YouTube thinks that you should watch this video. And if you want to subscribe, click right there. I hope I see as many of you as possible next week.